Hi everyone, John Cottrell here of MBODY Yoga, and this is part 2 of how to move into the yoga pose Sirsasana or headstand. Remember, Sanskrit, Sirsasana, headstand, or Shirsha means head. So in our first video, we demonstrated the two primary things you want to practice to start moving into an inverted posture like headstand. And that was downward facing dog. And the other, just arm strengthening position. We did that by pushing our arms into a wall or door just to build up that strength. Let's go on to the next few pieces. And that will be putting that same sensation of pushing into the wall down into the ground. And also feel that lengthening in the spine that we also practiced in downward facing dog, continuing with our core strength. Now, you can come down to your yoga mat for this, and we might want to use something soft, just so that we have a little extra padding for our heads. I just have a blanket out here, so we'll be using that for a little extra padding. It's just a nice object to have as you're practicing your headstand. But of course, when we're doing our headstand, we don't want to feel collapsed onto the head too strongly. That's why we want to press down very strongly through the forearms, so we have a lift slightly of the head that's on the ground, so we don't compress the spine. All right, before we get into the whole breakdown, let me show you Sirsasana, the whole pose. So that's Sirsasana. Alrighty. So as we practice, we're going to bring the fingers together, give a little squeeze so they feel tight and strong, and a nice triangle shape with the arms. We're going to press that triangle shape down into our blanket. Just come to your knees and down to your forearms. And rather than collapsing like this, we want to push into the ground, mainly with the fists and forearms, a little bit with the elbows, to still broaden the back. And as you exhale, we still want to connect to our core center by pulling belly button up towards the spine, engaging the abdominal lock. So we want to maintain this sensation. There's also a bit of a squeezing inward with the forearms and biceps towards each other for added stability. Now we're going to move into a plank pose with this. So you can continue practicing this with the knees on the ground, but you can also practice this by tucking the toes, lifting the knees, and we're in this plank posture, still pressing down very strongly, fists and forearms, broadening the back, even lifting the hips a little bit, engaging your core for added strength and stability. Okay, let's rest. So you can practice those things, pressing the arms into the floor, practice it with the knees on the floor, and then trying it in a plank pose, keeping that very strong torso. Now the next thing is, where does the head go? The head will certainly go on the ground, but where does it connect with the hands? So in that demonstration, we were squeezing the fists together. We actually need to open that up a little bit and create like a little cup, okay, with the hands. And that's where the back of your head will go. Let me demonstrate this way. So if I take my fists and kind of open it up so there's a cup, I'm going to place the back of my head into that cup right there. And you can still see that my arms are at this triangle shape with the elbows pointing out to the side. And you're really going to kind of tuck your head into that cup of the hands. And then the forearms will press down into the ground so that it doesn't put too much pressure on the top of the head. So we're going to practice that. So let's go ahead and take our fists, place it on the ground, open it up so we have a little cup. Now we don't want the arms out too wide because we still want that triangle or tripod shape because that's going to give us the base that we need. If the arms are out too far, this is going to draw a straight line. across and we won't have the stability. So we do need to maintain that triangle shape. Fists are on the ground. Open up the cup. Make sure you still have a triangle. Then you need to tuck your chin in towards your neck and just kind of tuck the back of your head into that cup. Now the hands are still pushing down into the floor, but mainly you want to get more of the arms pressing down into the mat. So just practice this for a moment. The back of your head tucked into the little cup of the hands, pressing down into the ground. Now you can tuck your toes. With the exhale, draw belly in, lift the knees. Even step forward a little bit. Keep a slight bend in the knees, hips lifting high. I'm pressing very strongly into the ground with the arms. So there isn't a lot of pressure on the top of my head. And you can probably hear that I can still talk pretty clearly because I'm not compressing through the spine or my throat. Let's rest. Alrighty. So that's part 2 of this demonstration of how to get into Sirsasana. So practice those things. Practice where you want to place the hands behind your head like this, still squeezing towards center with the elbows, and then trying it upside down. Hands on the ground, forearms pressing strongly into the mat with the back of your head pressing into the cup of the hands, core engaged. And then maybe lifting the knees up off the ground, lifting your hips up so you'll kind of come into that downward facing dog sensation. And just keep bearing down, rooting down strongly into the mat. Practice that. Part 3, we'll do that again and start extending a leg up into the air so you start to have that length moving forward towards our Sirsasana pose. All right, we'll see you next time. Thanks for joining me.